Hey everyone, thanks for joining me tonight for the 934 Gallery 5th Anniversary Retrospective Roundtable. I'm really honored to be here tonight. It's in celebration of the 5th year anniversary of 934 Gallery and the Retrospective Group Show. And that's going to be on view from December 4th to December 19th. So we just wanted to sit down with some of the original founders and some of the leadership, executive directors, and just chat about kind of the history and the story of 934 Gallery from the beginning days to this moment in time right now. And I'm really excited to be joined by Curtis Cole, Kyle Charles, Mark Jacques, Abigail Harding, Lisa Stewart, and Johnny Riddle. So I'm excited to get this going. All right, first up, I'm going to be talking to the founders. We got Curtis, Kyle, and Mark. How you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you. I am going to first just ask how, where, and when did you three meet? And I will, let's start with Curtis, and then you guys can kind of take it from there.
My first memory of all three of us together would probably be a skate park in high school. Yeah. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, definitely. Marky?
I've lost all memory of that.
Probably at the skate park.
Where'd you guys go to high school?
Grove City High School.
Got it.
See, baby.
Nice. So you guys are old buddies. How old were you guys? Or how long have you guys been friends since, or when 934 started to develop?
It would have been about 15 years, almost.
How did that idea really come about? That just coming up with deciding to establish this gallery idea, and just like how did that even start to formulate in your guys' minds?
A tax dodge?
Nice.
Marky was living here at the Milo Arts next door, and this space came available. Kurt's lease was up, my lease was up, and Mark's like, well, why don't we try to make something out of this big giant space? And I think Mark suggested an art gallery. It's something he had done a few times before, and we could get a beer sponsorship and not have to pay for beer.
Oh yeah.
So at the time, just prior to the gallery beginning, and for a number of years before that, I lived at Milo Arts, which is adjacent to the gallery there. And at a time at Milo, when I first moved into the building, there was a gallery in the building. And I remembered how awesome that was to bring the community together. There's just so many artists that live and work in that space, in Milo. So it's sort of, that would be the genesis of the idea, was that, Milo needed a gallery again, because the gallery that was there when I first moved into Milo no longer did show. So that would be the impetus. Yeah. And then timing worked out so that all three of us kind of needed a place, to stay, and maybe that space could be big enough for us to live and work there, which only worked until we opened the gallery, because as soon as we got the space, we decided that it would be best to just blow out the whole space and have, an enormous exhibition space, which is what that building's, been good for. So that's what we did. We tore the walls down. Like Kyle said, got some free beer from our buddy Mick. Shout out Mick Wesson, BBR. They helped us, kind of pay the rent in the first few months, and we had some awesome art shows. We started out with artists from Milo, which again sort of speaks to that the genesis of the idea coming out of Milo, sort of expanding the campus, to include an art gallery again. Yeah, and I actually had done some galleries before, so that maybe gave me some leverage to talk these guys into doing it with me,
Got some experience.
It's a lot of work, which we put in for about 6 months, and then I think I decided to move back to the West Coast to pursue my art career. And those guys had realized how much work it was by that time. So we handed the reins off to Abigail and the team, and yeah, it's just so awesome to see that the idea that just started really to provide a space to show our own work, and the people at Milo has continued for all these years. It's awesome to see the community is still a big part of it. I'd say, in the beginning, that was the main focus, though, was to create a space where the community could show their art. Because I didn't feel like, we didn't feel like at the time there was a lot of it going on, but there can always be more, right?
Absolutely. No, that's great. I mean, I think you kind of touched on a part of my next question. I would kind of want to hear what Curtis and Kyle might think, which you kind of covered was just, how did you see the impact of the gallery on the, I mean, you talked about it pretty well in all aspects, but I'm really thinking about, the immediate community of Milo surrounding the gallery, and then kind of the arts community in Columbus. And I don't know if you have any general kind of thoughts on what you were thinking about back then, and what kind of mark you could make in the community here and also in the arts community in general.
I would say we were pretty spontaneous at the time. We were kind of just trying to find out what would happen. But Curtis and Kyle could definitely speak to, the way that the community really showed up.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, from the first show we did.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that. Curtis, Kyle?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of support from the Milo community. Our first show was Rick Borg, and he was a huge help in getting the gallery prepared for the show, and helping with construction and painting and
really throughout the whole process of making this place a gallery, he was always there. I mean, all of this brick needed tuck pointed. He was in here late nights right there with us.
Yeah, for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then he did Rick Borg did the first mural on the outside of the building, and
That's right, yeah.
inaugurated that for everyone else.
It's awesome. Oh, that's really important. That's great to hear.
We could also mention Dan Coppola, who built the wood work on the doors and the sinks in the bathroom. He came through and created those. He considered them pieces of art for the gallery. It was a great donation to the cause.
That's awesome. I didn't really know that. That really shows that the community is like part of the physical space. That's pretty sweet. And I mean, so, kind of leading in, which Mark did well, to the next question is this next, or you guys had it around for about 6 months. I know Mark said he had to get, he was going to pursue his career in the West Coast. Curtis and Kyle, at that point, what were you thinking about in terms of kind of handing off the reins to a new group, new leaders, volunteers, and kind of what was that process like? And just some thoughts on that would be awesome.
It was actually pretty exciting to see so many other people who wanted to sort of keep the dream alive, keep the dream going. I think Kyle and I stayed involved in random ways throughout, contributing with random projects for the gallery and throughout the years, just wherever it was needed.
Kyle, any thoughts on that part of it? I mean, you're clearly still around and involved, but...
Yeah, still around. But as far as your question, Mark was kind of the art contact. Curtis and I aren't in that world very much until we got into starting doing this. But so when Marky decided to go back to the West Coast, we're like, oh, well, what the hell are we going to do? Well, he was all of our contacts. He had all the phone numbers to all the different artists. And, we had built up a rapport with several, obviously.
Yeah.
But at that point, we both have day gigs and other stuff to do.
Yeah.
But, still wanted to be here. So Abigail was our obvious choice, and she was interested and had been there from the beginning.
Should also
pretty
shout
much all
out
of us.
Jamie Abbott was in the mix too.
Jamie, yeah. The whole
It's not
crew.
like we totally all split.
Oh, yeah.
Was the one that split. We had built a community, or started to, that's continuing to build.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just to wrap up real quick with your guys' chat, you're leading me right into this next part with Abigail and hearing about her experience coming into this. But I just really was wondering, it may not have even crossed your mind back then, but it's been 5 years. Did you think it would last 5 years? Is this more than your expectation back then, or is it matching it, or how do you feel about it still growing and moving forward, as founders?
We were definitely, I think we were winging it, like I said, but at the same time, at least personally, I thought, it would be awesome if it continued.
Yeah.
Beyond.
Everything that's happened here is almost exactly what I personally had imagined, and it's really cool how it just sort of magically happened. We had a dream, and a lot of people just seemed to kind of have the same dream and kept it going. And so in a way, I am surprised it's still alive and kicking, but in another way, I'm not at all, because it just made sense, and it just kind of has a life of its own in a way.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I'm really not surprised at all, to be honest. We put in the groundwork and laid a foundation and had a huge team behind us, and we knew at any given point, if any of us stepped down, there was multiple people right behind us that were as willing to take the reins and eager and chomping at the bit to do it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, literally hundreds of people have been involved from the beginning.
Yeah.
Volunteer run from day one.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Oh, that's great. Really appreciate that insight. That's really cool to I've been around and seen the growth, and it's I don't really know how things come together to become something, and it's really cool to hear that backstory. So appreciate that.
Hi, my name is Sarah Aker. I've been a volunteer at 934 Gallery since about July 2015. I did actually come to the show in June, and I technically probably started helping in June because I moved into Milo that month. But yeah, so I've been volunteering here for over 5 years. I've had a few different roles. I've definitely done a lot of painting, a lot of hanging stuff, but I'd say probably one of my main roles alongside Catherine has been bartending. We typically do that at every opening, every month. And for some reason, we both feel safe and comfortable behind the bar, because it's like we always have a talking point, and we're kind of goofy and awkward and silly, and I think on some level we're a part of entertainment for people that come to the gallery. So typically we'll tend the bar and snacks and all that stuff, and then we also started curating the December group show. So we did 3 of those thus far. We did the Mouse show, the Underwater show, and the Eat Me show together. So, yeah. So one of my favorite shows, it's really difficult because there have been so many incredible shows. I'm trying to think of like an earlier show. I mean, I always love Rick Borg's shows. There was the Nude show with Jim Morton and Will Shively. That was incredible. So that was definitely one of my favorites too. And I honestly love the shows that Catherine and I did together. I think the Eat Me show was really kind of innovative and fun. I think a lot of people just had fun at that show. So there was a lot of energy, and there's been so many good shows here. But those are just a few of my favorites, I think. We did have an opening for a Hiss magazine here one night a couple years ago. That was so incredibly fun. It was packed full, something we could never do today. And there was just dancing, and everyone was having an insanely amazing time. That was honestly one of my best memories here. We've just had so much fun, even just setting up shows and dancing, and I've just met a lot of amazing people here, and so many friends that I have at 934 and Milo, and so there's been so many great times. 934 has definitely helped me learn so much about running a gallery and all the effort and energy that it takes. It takes a lot of people and a lot of dedication. And it's great because we like to keep diversity in art and letting people who typically wouldn't have a shot at another gallery show their work here, which I think is really important. So I just think 934 Gallery has been definitely a big part of my life for several years. It's been really great how many amazing people I've met being here. Which I would not have otherwise had the chance to meet.
So I'm Riley Bayer. I am currently the 934 Shop manager and patron relations coordinator. So I actually saw a Facebook event for a call for volunteers for 934 Fest 2019. I talked Michael Newmeyer into coming with me and signed up for the music committee and I think the logistics committee, maybe even one more. I was really gung-ho about participating. And then after volunteering on the music committee, I helped Johnny Riddle with the summer music program. And it was at that summer music program that he asked me if I would like to help him start a gift shop in the gallery. The first big exhibition that I went to at this gallery was the Fest last year, Lucy Shearer and Andy Meyer. I liked that there was kind of an immersive experience in here. It was beautiful. We really kicked butt at 934 Fest 2020. We had to switch gears in the middle of planning, and the end of that day felt so amazing. I felt like we could do anything. The whole day went without any issues when we were expecting a lot. So I think 934 Fest 2020 was my favorite memory so far. 934 means so much to me. I know that Johnny said it in the Roundtable, but I found 934 when I needed it most. I have this community now that is so supportive and welcoming and loving from day one. And the mission of the gallery to provide accessible arts to this neighborhood and beyond is something that I really hold close to my heart. So 934 means a lot to me. I really see a lot of expansion in our future, and I really hope for that in the future. I think we're going to continue to provide opportunities for artists and musicians from Columbus and beyond to show their art and to perform. And I'm really looking forward to whatever obstacles come our way, just because we really have the ability to be creative and come up with new things for the art community in Columbus.
Hi, this is Julie. My favorite show at 934 was The Gentle Oracle Bird by Shinyin Kaur. I remember the artist created these amazing little cards with their illustrations on them, and each card had a little reading that was specific and individual towards the person who picked the card. So that was really a great interactive element to their exhibition. My favorite memory experience at 934 was when we had our community storytelling event, and people have been in the neighborhood of Milo Gergen for generations could all gather together in this wonderful common space and share their story. And the way I found out about 934 was through, honestly, just a lot of my friends were talking about what great art was being shown, and so I had to come volunteer to check it out for myself.
All right, that was a great chat with the founders, and I just wanted to move on to chat with Abby. If you could just talk about how you came about joining the gallery and what you were excited about building upon, and kind of how you ended up in the position that you were in, and just that kind of bridge between the founders and this next era. That would be awesome.
Yeah, to go back a little bit kind of to the beginning and how I first became involved prior to the gallery opening. I remember the specific moment. I had got back from a vacation, was sitting on my front porch. I lived over in Wyland Park, and got a message from a friend of a friend who mentioned something about the guys were starting up this gallery, and they were looking for someone to find a connection for a wine donation for the grand opening reception.
Nice.
And had reached out to me, and I thought, wait a minute, the guys are starting this gallery over at Milo, and I've never heard of it. What's going on here? I also grew up with all of them, going to high school together in Grove City.
Oh, nice.
Even as far back as Kyle being in my kindergarten class. So we had all known each other for quite some time. I had also initially lived at Milo in the mid-2000s, as Mark did at that time as well. So we had some history with sort of the campus around Milo Arts here. And so I hit them up and, what's this gallery business you guys are doing? And Curtis said, oh, well, yeah, you'll definitely have to, stop over and check it out. We certainly need help. You can lend a hand. And I decided pretty much on the spot that they needed a PR coordinator, and I volunteered myself into that role. And then, as the guys mentioned, we had many folks involved behind the scenes and over the years. And as it came time for them to pass the torch, there was sort of community table at that time discussing what are the next steps, and various stakeholders from Milo Arts. And I definitely recognize the value that this was something that really brought people together. There were so many I'll say for myself at least, sort of those who felt like social misfits that found this as a way that we could connect and strive together to build something that was a way to give back to the community, not just here at Milo Arts or here in the Milo Grogan neighborhood, but kind of the larger community of Columbus and the arts here in the city as well. I've often referred to 934 as a community service project as opposed to being thought of as a commercial art gallery. As was mentioned, it has been entirely volunteer operated these whole 5 years, and that's something that we're very proud of and that I hold very dear to my heart as part of the kind of mission and the cause. So just seeing that, the way that it brought together those behind the scenes who were working on the project. Also, of course, all of the artists that we were able to bring in and connect with, various connections, group shows that were had where artists were able to meet other artists and build their creative energy through that process as well. That was really rewarding to be able to provide a venue, a platform for that, if you will. And then also our patrons, our attendees, those who would come and visit the gallery. The feeling of having our doors open and all of our amazing volunteers, those who have hosted our receptions, have always made a very welcoming environment where I think that really anyone, whether they were a seasoned art patron or just a neighbor who happened to be walking down the street and saw the door open, not only felt welcomed in the door, but felt like this was a place where they could belong. And if they wanted to get further involved, we offered that opportunity.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I've always admired that part of the gallery, and it's something to be really proud of from your end, and I'm just grateful for, as part of someone in this community and in the arts world as well. That's great that you hit upon a lot of the questions I was going to ask, which is awesome. And I guess a kind of more simple question, just can you talk about some of the exhibitions that you've been part of that are really special to you, maybe a few of your favorites, and maybe even just a little bit of just how exhibitions even come about and just your work making that happen, I guess. Yeah.
Certainly. We, in more recent years, have been fortunate to develop curation panels who have been sort of jurors of our annual call for exhibits. So we've had open calls for each exhibition season. Initially, as Mark mentioned, with our sort of growth out of Milo Arts, with the adjacent artist community that's in the historic school building, the residents there were among some of the first few shows that we had here in 2015. So we did start out kind of showcasing that connection to our neighboring live workspace, if you will. There have been so many wonderful exhibits. Certainly many of the group shows are always fun, really having a big variety of work. We annually do a group show each December, which was a tradition that began in 2015. We've just kind of stuck to that every December to do a group show. The third anniversary, June 2018, we had Rick Borg exhibit again. We were fortunate to have him back. He had been the original inaugural opening in 2015, and we were able to show his work again in 2018 as a 3-year anniversary kind of milestone for us at that point. I had the fortune of curating only one show in my time as director, otherwise, in the gallery. That was in August 2019. It included artwork from Mohammed Hamid, Kate Morgan, and Jason Mann, kind of themed around spirituality. All of their works had kind of layered collage elements to them.
Next, I want to go back in time to around July of 2016, and this is when the gallery launched 934 Fest, which is one of my favorite events that happens in town. And Abby, if you just want to talk about kind of the formation of that, how that idea got started, what it was like getting that going. And then I know that will kind of lead into the next person I want to talk to, which is Lisa. So yeah, just talk about 934 Fest, and would love to know everything about how that started up.
934 Fest sort of came out of necessity of a few months into my leadership of the gallery. We very much realized we needed a more sustainable means for funding. You know, we'd been doing art exhibits, but definitely wanted to leave things open to artists who might not have saleable work that someone's going to hang over their couch in their living room. We wanted to be able to have museum level shows that were experiences for our patrons and where the artists got to really take over the space, but that also left us with difficulty paying the electric bill and things like rent that are very real. And sadly, there is not this kind of fairy dust cloud of funding around grassroots arts organizations like many people assume that there is. We were really, you know, scrappy and doing things by our bootstraps, so to speak. So we said, well, what can we do to, you know, kind of meet this funding need? And the idea came up, well, let's have an arts and music festival. You know, Columbus loves its festivals, and we certainly see other organizations around town had similar festivals. ComFest, for example, raising money for good causes through beer sales and kind of opening up the community for appreciation of arts and music. So one of my co-directors at the time, Daniel Loper, who's sadly no longer with us, he came up with the idea of 934 Fest, I want to say about 4 weeks out before the date we decided for the inaugural event. So it was a very ambitious timeline producing that. Also involved at that time was Maxwell Chamberlain, who was also my roommate back then. And between all of us, we had many connections with various local artists who had experience doing murals, musicians, other performer folks, and folks who had relevant skills to lend to putting on such an event production. So we were able to have the wonderful talents of so many people that were volunteered to us for the cause. And thankfully had a connection with Cavalier Distributing, who was able to donate beer to the event. So we were able to put on this amazing festival with very little out-of-pocket cost, and then able to have all of the income from the beer sales go back into the operating budget for the gallery so we could keep this place open going forward. So those first couple years of the festival, everyone was just totally volunteering their talents, and that was really amazing for our team to see how much the sort of greater art scene around Columbus really believed in what we were doing and wanted to support the cause with their, you know, physical talents, whether it was someone painting a mural or performing on our stage or setting up lights or what have you. There was really so much support that went into that, just with the very root cause being to keep the lights on here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's a real testament to just the spirit of people who are wanting to do something together, getting stuff done. And if you're passionate and you find the right people, you can make some magic happen. So that's awesome. And that really kind of ties into, I want to ask Lisa how you got involved. And I know you've had many different roles in the past few years. So yeah, I mean, I think I can just let you kind of talk about how you got involved, the timeline with 934 Fest coming about, and just your thoughts on how you joined and that community that you entered.
Is it kind of funny and awkward to talk about like how I got involved when it's because of you, like directly because of you, Phil, that
Sure.
I got involved in the gallery space. So I had been poking around a little bit, trying to get back involved in the arts around the time of 934 Fest, the very first one. I was seeing somebody at the time who I thought was an amazing artist, and had never shown work before in a gallery, which I found to be pretty unbelievable. I had spent a lot of time in the art space in Columbus, dipped in and out over the years, had some time over at Junction View as an artist, and, remember putting on shows and putting on festivals and whatnot. And I wanted to get involved again in the arts in Columbus around this time. And I also wanted my, friend to showcase their work. I thought that their work was fantastic. And I knew that I had to put in the work. I couldn't just go to a gallery and say, hey, you need to show my friend's work. It's amazing. Like, who am I? Who are they? So I contacted actually somebody who I knew was involved a lot in the arts in Columbus, which was Mary Sundermeyer. And I had asked Mary, well, how do I get involved in places? Who should I contact? And Mary recommended that I reach out to you. And at this point, you and I had actually, floated around in the same circles in Columbus for a number of years, but had never really connected. And you and I grabbed coffee and talked a little bit about my, what I wanted out of an art space, what I wanted to do as a volunteer. And you actually suggested that I get in contact with Abigail over at 934, which I had driven by on Cleveland Avenue, for months and months, and looking at the space and thought it was an art gallery, and because I could see work on these beautiful white walls every time I drove by, but I'd never stopped in before. So I contacted Abby. We hadn't met face to face. We just did a couple phone calls. Abby had said, hey, there's this festival coming up that we're doing. It's in a couple of weeks. Why don't you come out and volunteer at the festival? And we'll talk after that. If you like it, we'll chit-chat about things that you can do for the gallery. So I showed up morning of, had never stepped foot on the gallery grounds before, and was handed a cash box and said, you're handling all beer sales for the day. So that's how I got involved with 934 Gallery and 934 Fest. And I didn't look back. I had so much fun that day that I kept coming back. Abby and I then met face to face, and we were able to talk about, what kind of things could I contribute to the space. I've worked in marketing pretty much my entire adult life, so I have a background in social media. I wanted to learn more about PR, so with Abby busy running the space, there was an opportunity for me to kind of help and lift up a little bit. At the time, the gallery was just starting to go through a transition with different leaders in the space. So during, an opening, prior to an opening, I would just be here hands-on, I think, like doing a lot of prep work. I would help Daniel with painting the walls, patching up the walls. I remember one afternoon doing the trim on all the walls here. I don't know if you remember that, Abby. I just had so much fun. Like, we just sat around, chit-chatted. It's a great way to be hands-on in a space and give back to a community, and also start to get involved in an arts community again. After that point, there was sort of this transition of some of the leaders here in the gallery, and I kind of stepped in, and there was a moment where we didn't have anybody helping out with the exhibitions, bringing in work, placing work, and I have an arts background, so it allowed me a time to begin to flex my art background a little bit. I believe that the first show I hung was Myrtle, right? I think so. Yeah, and that was a phenomenal show. Abby and I went out to look at work and pick out work that we thought would go great in the gallery, which was a great opportunity for us to work together. And for, I think, maybe just under a year, I helped out with pulling in some artists. This was before we started doing the juried exhibition, so there was a moment in time where what Mark had said, where Mark had these great art contacts, these great artists, pulling in people that he knew in the scene, pulling in people from Milo. and having shows, there was obviously some people I wanted to see in the space, and that allowed me to bring in some artists that I knew or that I wanted to get to know better, and I really liked their work, and allowed me to flex my art background, my art knowledge, and I had a lot of fun hanging shows. I think that's very the walking into a gallery space and noticing how a show is hung and how it's lit. A patron might not understand the work that went into it because it's done right, but when it's done wrong, you'll notice. So, I remember a lot of late nights here with Abby, Abby up on the ladders because I'm afraid of heights, adjusting the lights. Yeah, adjusting the lights. I couldn't do it, but I'd be like, that light's in a good spot. And awesome. For a little bit of time, Abby and I kind of, I played support as much as I could with Abby during this transition time. And that's about when Johnny started coming along too. There's sort of like this new guard that came in through the gallery, and I've just been here helping out in any way that I can through most of it. These days I help out again with PR, our emails, our writing, and just as like a support role as much as I can. I really enjoy being here. It's been 4-ish years at this point.
That's awesome. I mean, it really is a testament to, one, just how much work goes into managing a gallery and throwing on a festival and all that. And so that's really, it's impressive that, again, it's volunteer run and you guys are just, putting in your work because it's something you're passionate about, and that's a beautiful thing. And then also just that cool connection with us, and that's just a testament to the community that we have here in Columbus. I'm really fortunate to have so many different circles that are all kind of part of the bigger circle, and places like this gallery really help strengthen that community, and it's really important, and it's I'm really appreciative of the work you've all done. So that was awesome. Quickly back to Abby, because you even Lisa, you were hinting at it. There's now a kind of new era, new leadership. Johnny is come on board as the new executive director. So if Abby, you could just kind of quickly share what led up to that transition role and transition change, and just kind of maybe your thoughts on the next phase of 934.
Yeah, after I had served for about 4 years, and at that point was in the executive director role, it felt time for me to pass the torch on to the next guard, and we'd certainly had many amazing hands involved over the years. Johnny was one who had come on through one of the festivals in the meantime, started out helping with 934 Fest, doing fundraising for us, and then became more and more involved, kind of remained at the leadership table and was a big part of the team. So when I really solidified my plan to step back myself and pass that torch on, Johnny was eager to lead the charge into sort of the next chapter for 934, and I have certainly been grateful to have him here and to know that this little gallery that could is continuing on its cause in very capable hands. The level of organization and the kind of expanding creation of committees and delegation of duties that has happened with Johnny kind of steering the team is really encouraging, and I think shows that 934 definitely continues to grow in the right direction, having that real genuine community spirit. There is a quote that's a favorite of mine from Broadway theater personality Lin-Manuel Miranda that I would like to share quickly here. The kind of captures what I feel is one of the missions that 934 is carrying out and Johnny is carrying on for us, that art engenders empathy in a way that politics doesn't, and in a way that nothing else really does. Art creates change in people's hearts. And thinking back over the last 5 years since 2015, you know, that was definitely very true then, but that need for empathy, I think, has really only grown as we've seen our society struggle to combat racism, to combat other societal struggles, and the ongoing pandemic that we're experiencing. That need for empathy is so paramount, and all of us have found that art is really a way to engage and connect people on that level. And I know that Johnny sees that and is continuing to lead the gallery with that in mind.
That's really well stated. I appreciate that sentiment a lot, and I think you're totally right. Art is really, crucial during these times, and it's really important to support arts organizations like smaller ones that serve the community around them. And again, it's a passion project that you're volunteering your time and hard work in, and that's affecting people's lives for the positive, and that's amazing. So I appreciate that, and that's great. I would love to hear now from Johnny. We've talked to the founders, we've talked to kind of the transition team through the last few years, and I would love to hear, Johnny, what really interested you in taking on this executive director role, this leadership role. What does it mean to you? I know you've been part of the gallery for a while, but now you're taking the helm a bit. So just want to hear some of your thoughts on that.
To kind of touch on some of the things that Abby and Lisa said, yes, I came on at a time where I needed the gallery, I think, more than the gallery needed me. I was approaching my 30s, and I found myself in an industry that I wasn't proud of. I was doing marketing for big tobacco, and I started to, I spent my 20s going to art spaces, and I saw the community, especially here in Columbus, that surrounded themselves in these spaces and gathered there, and I was looking for something to direct my energy to, that would make me feel good about my efforts. So I touched base with my best friend Dana Harper, and she had informed me first about the need for Wild Goose. Creative was doing their wild art, which is crazy enough because it's tonight, and that's what I started doing. I started doing fundraising for their wild art, and once that was completed, I needed more. And I had been to 934 for some exhibitions, and I always had like a great time. And we had, me, Dana, and Gabe Kenny, we had gone to the fest the year prior. And 934 Fest 2017 was coming up, and she let me know that they were looking for somebody to help with sponsorships. And that's what I was just doing for Wild Art. Mm-hmm. So I came to one of the exhibitions. I can't remember because I was just so engrossed in the actual community, the connection with people. And I talked to Abby, and I can't remember the conversation, but I do remember Abby introducing me to somebody else, saying, "This is our new volunteer," and I had just met her like 5 minutes prior to. And I was their new volunteer. So I dug in on 934 Fest, and just like Wild Art, I was hooked. And once it was over, I needed more. So we transitioned post-fest. I didn't want to leave, so I didn't. I just kept on showing up. And I think that, first off, for anyone who's interested in volunteering here in Columbus or in the arts or any area, just showing up is so important. And that's what I did. I just showed up. And, shortly after, maybe a couple months, I was starting to sit at the big table, as we were talking about it at that point, and helping in between day to day. And, I saw how special this was, and I saw what, sponsorships would do for the festival, and I figured, maybe that's what I could do for the gallery as a whole, focusing on, donations, fundraising as a whole. And along with that came all the in-betweens, the patching, the painting, the building stages. There's so many projects that have been born out of just sweat and tears and blood and just passion. So we were approaching 934 Fest 2019, and Abby had indicated to the leadership team that she wanted to move into a more supporting role. And while I had no intention of leaving 934 at all, I was hesitant to take the role because I knew what it entailed, and I knew it was a little nervous about taking on that responsibility. But I also was so excited about the opportunity and knew what this place meant to me, what it meant to the leadership team, and knew what it could be based upon what it has already become in the first 4 years. So despite some 40-hour weeks at a volunteer gig on top of having a full-time job, I wouldn't take that decision back at all. And I'm so thankful to be surrounded by people who are equally as passionate about this space and this neighborhood as I am, because I can do only what I can do. But if I didn't have Liz Martin, if I didn't have Lucy Shearer, if I didn't have Andy Meyer, if I didn't have Riley Bayer, if I didn't have Michael Newmeyer, who's recording this right now, if I didn't have all these volunteers who just commit so much time, effort, and talent, we would not be here celebrating our 5th anniversary. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So, did that answer your question?
Absolutely. No, that's
I feel like
that's
I rambled,
beautiful.
but yeah,
That's great. It's great to hear from
why
you.
I took it.
Yeah. No, that's all amazing. I love to hear it. It's it's a family, so it's cool to hear the stories of the family and get to know you guys a little bit better. So yeah, I think this is kind of the last question. I think we'll wrap it up soon, but it's been so cool to just see this trajectory and hear from every person who's been part of the leadership, and you've all done such an amazing job. Final question is kind of up. I'll let Johnny maybe answer first, and then it's kind of up for everyone to talk about is just your future hopes for the galleries, and just what you dream about seeing here and what it might become. I think a really cool thing about this talk is we know of tons of arts organizations in town, the iconic ones that have been here forever. And you don't really get a chance to think about how it started. And a lot of these organizations started small, started maybe by volunteers, and became something bigger later on. So it's an honor for me to hear about this, and I'm really excited to see the future. I want to hear what maybe you guys are thinking about for the future of the gallery.
My hope for 934, and my focus in my time in this role, is to create sustainability. I want to think beyond just the day-to-day, even though I know it's incredibly important, especially in a current pandemic, but I want to plan for 2031 as opposed to 2021. I want to establish us so that we can continue to make an impact on Milo Grogan, the youth in Columbus, and I would like to see us continue to expand our arts programming. We've had a summer music program, we've had a mural mentorship program, and I think it's just so vital to support young artists who are still developing their skills and just fueling that passion. And that's what I hope for with 934 Gallery.
Yeah, it's great.
To kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Johnny just mentioned, I would like to see sustainability in the sense of attracting the sort of visionaries and the sort of volunteers to help us out with that arts programming in the future. I would love to see 934 Gallery expand into being a place where film is considered a viable place to show, right? I got really into film as art and film and video as an art form over the last couple of years, and 934 Gallery isn't there yet, but I would love us to see in the future having a space where film artists want to show their work here. We've had some of that in the past, and it's been awesome, and I'd love to support more. We've also done a really great job of sort of breaking down preconceived barriers of art and, I don't know if I can go to an art gallery. That seems a little, out of my comfort zone. But one of the things that I've always heard from people that come through 934 Gallery is how open and welcoming we are, and how like this isn't a pretentious space, and we've really broken down those barriers, and I'd like for that to continue. I have become an art collector in the last several years, and I know that one of my proudest moments here in this space was encouraging a patron to purchase their first real work of art from an artist that they could know the name of that artist, not just like a recreation of a print on canvas from Target. And they were so excited about that purchase that they could display it in their home, and that I think sparked something in them. And I want to spark more of that in people and break down this idea that art collecting only exists for people with tons of money. I think 934 Gallery is a great place to come and start that collection. As myself, what I'd like to continue to do for 934 Gallery is get us this sort of press. I think this last year, we've really started making a name for ourselves beyond just the Short North, the Milo Grogan, this little bubble, this little like 3-mile radius bubble where we're in. People are starting to now know 934 Gallery as a name. And I'd like to see that go beyond Columbus. I'd like to see that go beyond Ohio at some point. I'd like, by doing that, then we go back to my original goal of attracting that sort of visionary and talent from future volunteers that will help us create amazing art programming in the future.
Awesome. Great.
And just to look back for a moment on kind of seeing where we've grown over the years that I think has propelled us into our potential for the future. Thinking back, as Lisa mentioned about expanding our reach, we've been so fortunate to have very frequent support from the Columbus Alive over the years. Jim Fisher, who was formerly there, was a great writer about the gallery and also just an advisor for us as well. Also, Andy Downing, who's there, has been very kind in helping spread the good word about 934 to the folks in Columbus. On the sustainability side, we did not have any grant funding the first few years. And I remember sitting in the interview for the GCAC grant application process with Mackenzie Swinehart there, and they also have a board member in each of their interviews. And you sort of tell a bit about your organization, kind of give a presentation to the board member, and we got through sharing about 934 and what we've done with the festival, murals, what have you, and the board member paused and turned and said, wait, so we've never funded you before? You guys have done all these exhibits and these festivals, and GCAC never funded you before? You did this all on your own? And that was a big moment where I almost cried. And I was like, yes, thank you for noticing. So as we've kind of reached those milestones of just getting the word out there further and being able to receive funding to make our operations more sustainable, I think we've seen this incremental growth year over year, and it's only going to continue to grow as we continue to have a dedicated team of volunteers. We've been able to have more summer youth programming, both music aspect as well as a mural mentorship program, and I certainly see capacity for that to expand. There's been potential talks of perhaps some sort of non-traditional artist residency as a future thing that's just on the beginning stages on the drawing board. But as we look around our campus here, we're very fortunate to have many, many walls that murals can be created on year over year as well. A lot of outdoor space with our stage and for other pop-up elements to occur. So yeah, a lot of potential and a lot to look forward to from where we've come.
That's fantastic. I like that word scrappy. I think that's very fitting, and I think that people may not just realize how much work goes into running something like this, and that's important to, I'm glad we're having this conversation because it really does get to show people that it takes a village to make these things happen. So that's great.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yep. The phrase "takes a village" definitely rings true to me. I've often offhandedly described the gallery as being like a baby giraffe that is very, very slowly on its gangly legs over the years, one at a time, gotten them up under itself. And now at 5 years, I think we're finally kind of starting to take our first steps. Like baby is able to stand on its legs now.
That's beautiful. Excellent. I'm super glad to be part of the journey, and I'm so happy to have had this conversation.
We're so thankful to you, Phil, for your support over the years. You've been an incredible advisor to me and to the gallery, and your connection of bringing Lisa Stewart into the fold here. For all of your support in so many ways, we definitely want to thank you as well, and just so fitting that you were able to be a part of facilitating this conversation with us.
Yeah, I am honored to be here.
Honestly, we thought of you first, obviously. When we thought about sitting down, we were like, who is going to be the best person to talk with us about the gallery that never served in a leadership role in this space? And I mean, it was you. It was
I am
always you.
honored to be here. It's been such a privilege. We
do have to say that Phil has supported us in his short-term advisory board role,
Yes.
which will lead us into the next step with 934, as in 2021 we will be finalizing our transition into a 501c3, and that was at the direction of that short-term advisory board. So that sustainability that we've spoke to would not be possible if it wasn't for the direction of Phil and the rest of that short-term advisory board. So for the rest of the 934 team, thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Phil, for everything.
Absolutely. I think, speaking maybe for the board, we were, again, super impressed with all that you've done with such little resources, and just, I think the impact you have on the community and that mission that You want to benefit the community of people around you is something that we stood behind, and stand behind you as you work out that mission, and that's why we supported your move to a nonprofit status, and we're excited to see that happen. All right, so yeah, I think we'll wrap it up. I think I would love to keep chatting, but we should probably wrap it up for now. Maybe another future conversation will happen. 10-year anniversary, who knows? Maybe I'll come back as the host for that. But so yeah, as mentioned earlier, this conversation is part of this 934 5th year anniversary celebration. There's the anniversary retrospective, which is going to be on view. Let's see, was it December 4th to December 19th? It's going to feature 50 returning artists and 100 works of art, which is mind-blowing. That's amazing. The gallery's open Saturdays, 12 to 3 p.m. You can plan your visit, 934gallery.org/appointments. And then, again, volunteer work, it's a lot. Small arts organizations need your support, so if you're interested in throwing a few bucks, you can go to the website, 934gallery.org, find the donate button, click on it, send them some money to help support these awesome programs and all the great work they're doing. And thanks again. Thank you guys for the great conversation, and I'm signing off now.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, have a good evening.